The classroom on Nexus Prime space station buzzed with quiet activity. Students from 12 different worlds sat in specially designed seats that fit their various body types. Some floated in gas-filled bubbles, others rested on crystalline platforms, and a few swayed gently in water-filled tanks. Professor Taemin Kim walked to the front of the room, his human footsteps echoing softly on the metal floor. He had taught at many universities across the galaxy, but this was his first time explaining human culture to such a diverse group of alien students. His dark hair was neatly combed, and he wore the standard blue teaching robes of the Galactic University. "Good morning, everyone," he said, activating the universal translator that hung around his neck. "I am Professor Kim, and I will be teaching you about human civilization over the next few weeks." The students stirred with interest. Most had never seen a human before, except in photographs or videos. Taemin looked around the room, noting the different species present. There was Bin, a Veltharian whose body looked like living crystal that sparkled in the light. Next to Bin sat Juan, a Zephyrian who appeared as a swirling cloud of purple gas contained in a clear suit. In the front row, Nara Park raised her hand and waved. She was the only other human in the class, an exchange student from Earth who had arrived on Nexus Prime 2 months ago. Her long black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she smiled warmly at Professor Kim. "Today we will begin with Earth itself," Taemin said, touching the control panel. A holographic image of Earth appeared in the center of the room, slowly rotating. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and beautiful floating in the darkness of space. "Earth is the third planet from our sun," he continued. "It has one moon and takes 365 days to orbit our star. The planet is mostly covered in water, with large land masses called continents." Wu Jin, an aquatic Murthak student, moved closer to the glass wall of his water tank. His gills fluttered with excitement as he looked at all the blue oceans on the holographic Earth. "Fascinating," said Yoon, a Kliktar whose compound eyes reflected the light from the hologram. "Your world appears quite standard, similar to many Class M planets we have studied." Taemin nodded. "Yes, Earth might look ordinary from space, but appearances can be misleading." He paused, thinking about how to explain what made Earth special. "Earth has some unique characteristics that shaped human development in interesting ways." "What kind of characteristics?" asked Jin, a Bloomtail whose plant-like body swayed gently. "His species evolved on a world where the weather never changed and all life forms lived in harmony." "Well," Taemin said carefully, "Earth can be challenging. The environment changes constantly. Weather patterns shift without warning. The planet itself is quite active geologically." Bin's crystalline form tilted to one side, which was how Veltharians showed confusion. "Challenging? I do not understand. What do you mean by challenging?" Nara quietly laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. She knew what was coming. "Perhaps we should discuss this more specifically," Taemin said. "But first, let me ask you all something. What do you know about Earth from the galactic databases?" Several students checked their personal data tablets. After a moment, Juan's gas form swirled more rapidly, which indicated surprise among his people. "Professor Kim," Juan said slowly, "the database lists Earth as a death world in the planetary classification system. Surely this is an error." The other students looked up from their tablets with confusion. Death worlds were extremely rare in the galaxy. Most intelligent life evolved on gentle planets with stable weather and peaceful environments. "I see the same classification," said Yoon, her compound eyes dimming with worry. "But humans appear so normal. How could you come from a death world?" Young-ho, a Nexvar with two consciousness sharing one body, spoke up. "The classification must be wrong. Death worlds cannot support complex life. They are too dangerous for civilization to develop." Taemin looked around the room at all the concerned faces. Some students were already looking nervous, and he had not even begun explaining yet. He walked over to his desk and sat on the edge, trying to appear relaxed and non-threatening. "The classification is not wrong," he said gently. "Earth is indeed what your databases call a death world, but humans do not see it that way. To us, Earth is simply home." "But how is that possible?" asked Min, a Gildine whose photosynthetic skin was turning pale yellow with stress. "Death worlds are hostile to life. Nothing should be able to survive there, let alone build cities and develop technology." "That is exactly what makes humans interesting," Taemin said with a smile. "We did not just survive on Earth, we thrived there. We built our entire civilization while living on what you consider one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The students exchanged worried glances. Some were already reaching for their stress medication. Bin's crystal body began to vibrate slightly, which was a sign of fear among Veltharians. "Professor Kim," Bin said, his voice shaking slightly, "could you please explain what makes Earth so dangerous? We need to understand how humans could possibly survive on such a world." Nara raised her hand. "May I say something, Professor?" Taemin nodded and Nara stood up. She looked around the room at all the alien students who were staring at her with a mixture of curiosity and fear. "I grew up in Seoul, which is a city on Earth," she said. "I lived there for 22 years before coming here to study. To me, Earth is not scary at all. It is beautiful and full of life. I miss the rain and the changing seasons. I miss the mountains and the ocean. But if it is a death world," Juan began. "Maybe the problem is perspective," Nara said gently. "What seems dangerous to you might seem normal to us. We grew up there. We adapted to it. Our bodies and minds learned how to live with Earth's challenges." Professor Taemin stood up and walked back to the hologram. "Nara makes an excellent point. Humans do not see Earth as dangerous because we evolved there. Every challenge our planet presented, we found ways to overcome." "What kind of challenges?" asked Wu Jin, his gills moving faster with nervousness. Taemin looked around the room one more time. He could see that his students were genuinely curious but also increasingly worried. He made a decision. "Rather than just telling you about Earth," he said, reaching for the environmental controls, "perhaps it would be better if I showed you. The classroom has a full environmental simulator. I can recreate Earth conditions so you can experience what daily life is like for humans." Several students immediately moved backward in their seats. Jin's plant-like body curled up defensively. "Is that safe?" asked Young-ho nervously. "Perfectly safe," Taemin assured them. "The simulator has full safety protocols. You will not be harmed, but you might find the experience educational." "I think we should see it," Nara said encouragingly. "It will help you understand humans better." Bin's crystal form vibrated more intensely. "Professor Kim, before you begin, may I ask one more question?" "Of course. Exactly how deadly is your world?" "The database classification gives very little detail." Taemin paused, his hand hovering over the environmental controls. He looked at all the worried faces staring back at him. Some were from species that had never experienced anything more dangerous than a gentle breeze or a warm day. "Well," he said slowly, "perhaps it would be better if I showed you rather than tried to explain. But I should warn you, you might want to adjust your stress regulators first. Earth can be intense for those who did not grow up there." He activated the simulator controls. "We will start with something simple. Just a typical day of Earth weather." The lights in the classroom dimmed and the environmental simulator hummed to life. Storm clouds began to form in the holographic display above their heads. "Oh dear," whispered Juan, as the first rumble of thunder echoed through the room. The lesson about Earth was about to begin. The environmental simulator hummed louder as dark clouds formed overhead. Professor Taemin adjusted the controls and the classroom began to feel different. The air grew heavy and thick like something big was about to happen. "This is a typical summer thunderstorm," Taemin said calmly. "Very common on Earth, especially during the warmer months." The alien students looked up nervously as the holographic clouds grew darker and more threatening. Bin's crystal body was vibrating so fast now that he made a high-pitched humming sound. "The clouds look angry," whispered Jin, his plant-like leaves curling up tight. "Clouds cannot be angry," Taemin explained with a gentle smile. "But I understand why you might think so. Earth weather can seem very dramatic to visitors." A flash of bright light suddenly filled the room. Several students cried out in alarm and Juan's gas form turned a darker shade of purple, which meant he was terrified. "What was that?" Young-ho asked, both of his consciousness speaking at the same time in fear. "Lightning," Nara said cheerfully. "It is just electricity jumping between the clouds and the ground. Completely natural." Boom! The sound of thunder rolled through the classroom. Yoon fell backward off her seat, her compound eyes going completely dark. Wu Jin pressed himself against the far wall of his water tank, his gills fluttering wildly. "Electricity jumping to the ground?" Min repeated in a shaky voice. "How much electricity?" "About 1 billion volts," Taemin said casually. "Hot enough to instantly vaporize organic matter." The temperature of a lightning bolt is about 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. 3 students immediately fainted. Medical drones quickly flew over to check on them. 5 times hotter than the sun, Bin managed to whisper. And this happens regularly? Oh yes, Nara nodded. Earth has about 8 million lightning strikes every single day. When I was little, I used to love watching thunderstorms from my bedroom window. You watched them? Juan asked in disbelief. For entertainment? Many humans do, Taemin confirmed. Some even go outside during storms to feel the rain. The student stared at him like he had just said humans enjoyed swimming in lava. But that is not even the interesting weather, Taemin continued, adjusting the simulator again. Let me show you what we call a tornado. The holographic display changed. The students watched in growing horror as a massive spinning column of air formed in the sky. It touched the ground and began moving across a landscape, destroying everything in its path. The winds in a tornado can reach over 400 kilometers per hour, Taemin explained. They can pick up cars, destroy buildings, and move entire houses from one place to another. Wu Jin made a high-pitched keening sound that was how his species expressed absolute terror. How do humans survive such things? We have warning systems, Nara said. When tornadoes are coming, we go to safe places underground and wait for them to pass. You wait for them to pass? Young-ho asked. You do not evacuate the entire planet? That would be impractical, Taemin said with amusement. Earth has about 1,000 tornadoes every year just in one region called the United States. If we evacuated the planet every time, we would never be home. 1,000 per year. Bin's voice was so high-pitched now that the translator could barely process it. Some humans actually chase tornadoes, Nara added helpfully. They follow them around to study them and take pictures. 4 more students fainted. Taemin decided to continue before anyone else could ask questions. Now let me show you a hurricane. The display changed again. A massive spiral of clouds appeared hundreds of kilometers wide, spinning slowly over an ocean. The students watched as it moved toward land, bringing enormous waves and devastating winds. Hurricanes are much larger than tornadoes, Taemin explained. They can be 500 kilometers across and last for weeks. The winds can reach 250 kilometers per hour, and they bring flooding rains and storm surges that can wash entire cities into the ocean. Entire cities, Jin whimpered, his leaves now completely closed. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 destroyed most of New Orleans, Nara said. But humans rebuilt it. We always rebuild. You rebuild cities that get destroyed by weather? Yoon asked weakly. Of course, Taemin said. Where else would we live? Weather happens everywhere on Earth. There is no completely safe place. What about the cold regions? Asked Min hopefully. Surely the poles are peaceful. Taemin smiled and changed the display again. Snow began falling in the hologram, first gently, then harder and harder until it became a raging blizzard. This is what we call a blizzard, he said. The temperature can drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The wind carries snow and ice crystals that can blind you and freeze your skin in minutes. The snow can pile up 3 meters deep in a single day. Juan was now pressed against the ceiling of his containment suit, trying to get as far away from the display as possible. Frozen water falls from the sky, he whispered. In solid pieces? Snow is quite beautiful, Nara said dreamily. I love making snowmen with my little cousins. And skiing is so much fun. You go outside in this frozen water? Wu Jin asked. On purpose? Humans have winter sports, Taemin explained. We slide down mountains on pieces of wood. We play games on frozen water. We build temporary shelters in the snow just for fun. This is insane, Young-ho muttered, both consciousness speaking together. Wait until you hear about ice storms, Nara said brightly. Sometimes the rain freezes as it falls and covers everything in a layer of ice. It is like the whole world becomes a crystal palace. But that must make it impossible to walk or drive, Bin said. It makes it challenging, Taemin agreed. But humans adapt. We put special tires on our vehicles, we wear special shoes, and we carry salt to melt the ice. You have solutions for all of this? Min asked in amazement. We have to, Nara said simply. We live there. Taemin changed the display one more time. Let me show you what humans consider only moderately dangerous weather. The hologram showed a dusty, orange landscape under a blazing sun. The temperature reading showed 55 degrees Celsius. This is the Australian outback during summer, he said. Temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees. There is almost no water. The sun's radiation can cause severe burns in minutes. Most of the continent is considered uninhabitable by galactic standards. And yet, Yoon asked weakly. About 25 million humans live there, Nara said proudly. They have cities, farms, and mines. They raise cattle and grow crops. My friend Jaewon went there on vacation last year and loved it. Vacation? Several students said the word together in disbelief. Humans often travel to dangerous places for pleasure, Taemin explained. We call it adventure tourism. Some people pay money to climb the highest mountains, cross the hottest deserts, or dive in the deepest oceans. I need medication, Bin announced, reaching for his emergency stress relief pills. This is just the weather, Taemin said gently. We have not even discussed the other aspects of Earth yet. The students all stared at him with expressions of pure horror. Other aspects? Hwan asked faintly. Well, yes. The weather is just the environment. Earth also has quite diverse wildlife. Wildlife, Jin squeaked. Oh, you will love the animals, Nara said enthusiastically. Earth has such wonderful creatures. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, snakes, spiders. 6 more students fainted. Perhaps we should take a break, Taemin suggested, noticing that half his class was now unconscious. When everyone recovers, we can discuss Earth's fascinating ecosystem. Bin looked around at his fallen classmates, then back at Professor Taemin. Professor, may I ask one question? Of course. Humans live with weather that can instantly kill them, freeze them solid, burn them alive, or blow them away with winds faster than most spacecraft travel? That is correct. And you consider this normal? Completely normal, Nara confirmed. I actually miss Seoul's monsoon season. The rain here on the station just is not the same. Bin's crystal form stopped vibrating. For a moment, there was complete silence in the classroom. I think, he said slowly, we need to call the medical staff. All of them. Good idea, Taemin agreed, looking at his unconscious students. Tomorrow we will discuss why humans consider Australia's wildlife only moderately dangerous. Bin made a sound that the translator could not process. But Professor Taemin was pretty sure it was not a happy sound. The next day, Professor Taemin entered the classroom to find medical drones hovering near every student seat. Word about yesterday's weather lesson had spread quickly through the station. The medical staff was taking no chances. Good morning, everyone, Taemin said cheerfully. I see we have some extra help today. Most of the alien students looked tired and stressed. Several were wearing emergency medical monitors, and Bin's crystal form had developed small cracks from yesterday's vibrations. Professor Kim, Hwan said nervously, his gas form a worried shade of gray. We spent all night reading about Earth weather in the database. How are humans not extinct? That is an excellent question, Taemin replied. Today we will begin to understand the answer, but first I want you to meet someone special. He activated the communication system and a holographic projection appeared in the room. A young woman with short black hair and a bright smile waved at them. She was standing in what looked like clear blue water under a sunny sky. Hello, everyone, the woman said. I am Da-Yin Lee and I study marine biology at Seoul National University. I am calling from the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. The students stared at her in confusion. She looked completely calm and happy, standing in the water without any protective equipment. Marine biology? Asked Woo Jin from his water tank. You study ocean life? That is right, Da-Un said. I have been swimming in Earth's oceans for 15 years, studying all the wonderful creatures that live there. But, Jin said carefully, yesterday Professor Kim showed us that Australia is extremely dangerous. How are you alive? Dan laughed, a sound so casual and carefree that several students exchanged worried glances. Australia is not that bad once you know what to watch out for, she said. The reef here is actually quite safe during the day. I only have to worry about a few things. What kind of things? Yoon asked, her compound eyes focused intently on the hologram. Well, there are box jellyfish, blue-ringed octopus, cone snails, sea snakes, saltwater crocodiles, and sharks, Daeun said, counting on her fingers. But they are usually easy to avoid if you know what you are doing. The medical drones immediately moved closer to several students who looked like they might faint. Did you say sharks? Young-ho whispered. Oh yes, we have lots of sharks here, Da-Un said happily. Great whites, tiger sharks, bull sharks, hammerheads. They are absolutely fascinating creatures. Fascinating, Bin repeated, his voice cracking. Let me show you one of my favorites, Da-Un said, She reached into the water and carefully picked up a small, colorful octopus. This is a blue-ringed octopus. Is it not beautiful? The octopus was indeed beautiful. With bright blue rings pulsing across its skin, it sat calmly in Dayun's palm, its tentacles moving gently. It is very pretty, Min said cautiously. Is it friendly? Oh no, it is extremely deadly, Dayun said cheerfully. This little guy carries enough venom to kill 26 adult humans in minutes. There is no antidote and the bite is usually painless, so you might not even know you have been poisoned until you stop breathing. 3 students immediately reached for their stress medication. And you are holding it? Juan asked in a voice so high-pitched it was almost a squeak. It is perfectly safe as long as you do not threaten it, Daun explained. Blue-ringed octopuses are actually quite shy. They only bite when they feel cornered. She gently placed the octopus back in the water, where it quickly disappeared among the coral. Now let me show you something really interesting, she continued, swimming a few meters away. This is a box jellyfish. What appeared in front of her looked like a transparent bag floating in the water. Long, thin tentacles trailed behind it, almost invisible in the clear water. Box jellyfish are amazing hunters, Dayun said. They actively hunt their prey instead of just floating around like other jellyfish. Their tentacles can extend 3 meters and are covered with millions of tiny needles filled with venom. How much venom? Jin asked weakly. Enough to kill 60 adults, Dayun said. The pain is so intense that most people go into shock immediately. Some victims have heart attacks from the pain alone. And it hunts people. Hu Jin pressed himself against the back wall of his tank. Well, not specifically people, Dayun laughed. But it does hunt anything that moves in the water. They are quite intelligent for jellyfish. They have 24 eyes and can see quite well. 24 eyes, Yoon muttered. To hunt better? Exactly. They are really remarkable creatures. I have been studying them for 3 years now. From a safe distance, I hope? Bin asked desperately. I swim with them regularly, Dawan said casually. You just have to wear a protective suit and be very careful where you put your hands and feet. You swim with creatures that can kill 60 people? Young Ho asked, both consciousness speaking together in horror. Science requires some risk, Daun said with a shrug. Besides, they are not aggressive unless you bother them. She swam over to another part of the reef. Oh, here's a cone snail. These are some of my favorite research subjects. She pointed to what looked like a beautiful, colorful shell sitting on the coral. Cone snails are incredible hunters, she explained. They shoot a poisonous dart at their prey. The venom is so powerful that it can kill a human in minutes. Some species have venom that works so fast you could die before you even realize you have been stung. It shoots poison darts. Min's photosynthetic skin had turned completely pale. Yes, like a tiny harpoon gun. The venom contains hundreds of different toxins. Scientists are actually very interested in it for medical research. Medical research? Juan asked. Pain medication, Doan explained. The venom is so effective at shutting down nervous systems that we think we can use it to help people who suffer from chronic pain. You want to use the deadly venom as medicine? Yoon asked in disbelief. Many of Earth's deadliest creatures provide useful medicines, Professor Taman interjected. Humans have learned to find benefits in the most dangerous things. Speaking of dangerous, Dawn continued, let me show you why I really love working in Australian waters. She swam further out into deeper water. In the distance, a large gray shape appeared. That is a great white shark, she announced, about 4 meters long, a juvenile. The shape moved closer and the students could see the distinctive pointed snout and rows of triangular teeth. A juvenile, Woojin squeaked. How big do they get? Adults can reach 6 meters and weigh over 2,000 kilograms, Dayun said. They are perfect predators. Their design has not changed in millions of years because they do not need to improve. Perfect predators? Ben whispered. Their teeth constantly replace themselves. They can bite with a force of 1.8 tons per square centimeter. They can smell blood in the water from 5 kilometers away. They can sense electrical fields from other animals' nervous systems. The shark swam closer to Dayun, who floated calmly in the water. They are absolutely magnificent, she said with genuine admiration. Evolution's finest achievement. Is it going to eat you? Jin asked in panic. Probably not, Dayun said. Great whites do not usually attack humans. We are not their preferred food. They like seals and fish better. Probably not, several students repeated together. Well, shark attacks do happen, Dayun admitted. but you are more likely to be struck by lightning than eaten by a shark. And we already learned that humans do not worry much about lightning. Because you are insane, Young Ho muttered. I should mention, Daun continued, that this is actually one of the safer parts of the ocean. In the deep water, we have things like saltwater crocodiles. What are those? Yoon asked, though she sounded like she did not really want to know. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptiles, Daun explained. They can grow to 7 meters long and weigh over 1,000 kilograms. They have the strongest bite force of any animal on Earth, stronger than a great white shark. They can hold their breath underwater for an hour, and they are excellent swimmers. They sound terrible, Juan said. They are actually quite beautiful, Daun said, and they have been around for 200 million years without needing to evolve much. They were already perfect. Perfect at what? Min asked. Killing things, Daun said simply. They can launch themselves completely out of the water to catch prey. They grab their victims and roll over and over underwater until the prey drowns. Then they stuff the body under a log or rock and wait for it to rot before eating it. 5 students fainted simultaneously. Oh dear, Daun said, noticing the medical drones swarming around the unconscious students. I hope I did not say anything too shocking. Not at all, Professor Taemin assured her. You have been very educational. Perhaps you could tell us about some of the smaller creatures? Of course. Let me tell you about mosquitoes, Daeun said brightly. What are mosquitoes? Bin asked weakly. Tiny flying insects about 3 millimeters long, Daeun explained. They drink blood from other animals. Individually, they are completely harmless. The students looked relieved for the first time all day. However, Daeun continued, mosquitoes kill more humans than any other animal on Earth. About 1 million people die from mosquito bites every year. The relief vanished instantly. How can something 3 millimeters long kill 1 million people? Young Ho asked in horror. They carry diseases, Daeun explained. Malaria, yellow fever, dengue fever, Zika virus. When they bite one infected person and then bite another person, they spread the disease. And humans cannot stop. The third day of Professor Taemin's class looked like a hospital ward. Medical equipment filled every corner of the room. Oxygen tanks, stress monitors, and emergency medication were positioned next to each student's seat. 3 medical doctors floated nearby in case anyone needed immediate help. Good morning, class, Professor Taemin said gently. I know the last 2 days have been challenging. Today we will discuss something that should be more familiar and comfortable for everyone. Jin's plant-like body straightened up hopefully. As a photosynthetic being, he had been looking forward to learning about Earth's plant life. Plants are peaceful, he said with relief.
Finally, something that makes sense. I am sure you will find Earth's botanical life very interesting, Professor Taemin agreed.
Activating the communication system. A new hologram appeared, showing a woman with long black hair, tied back in a practical ponytail. She was standing in what looked like a green maze of enormous trees and thick vegetation. Bright flowers and strange plants surrounded her on all sides. Hello, everyone, the woman said with a warm smile. I am So Young Kim, and I study botany at the Amazon Research Station in Brazil. I am calling from the middle of the Amazon rainforest. The students looked at the lush green environment behind her. It looked peaceful and beautiful, like a garden paradise. The Amazon rainforest? Wu Jin asked from his water tank. That sounds lovely. It is absolutely wonderful, So Young agreed. The Amazon is home to more plant species than anywhere else on Earth. We estimate there are over 400,000 different types of plants here. 400,000. Min's photosynthetic skin brightened with excitement. That is incredible biodiversity. Indeed it is, So Young said. And many of these plants have developed fascinating ways to survive in such a competitive environment. What do you mean by competitive? Young Ho asked. Well, when you have so many different species living in the same area, they have to find creative ways to get sunlight, water, and nutrients. So Young explained. Some of these solutions are quite aggressive. She walked over to a nearby tree and pointed to a vine covered in beautiful green leaves. This is poison ivy, she said cheerfully. One of my favorite research subjects. Jin leaned forward with interest. It looks harmless. Very pretty leaves. Those leaves contain a chemical called urushiol, So Young explained. If a human touches this plant even briefly, the chemical causes severe burning, itching, and blistering that can last for weeks. The plant burns people? Bin asked in confusion. Why would it do that? To protect itself, So Young said. Humans and animals learn quickly to avoid plants that cause pain. It is a very effective defense mechanism. But how much contact causes this reaction? Hyun asked. Any contact at all, So Young replied. Even touching something that touched the plant can cause the reaction. The chemical can remain active on clothing or tools for years. Years? Juan's gas form turned pale gray. Oh yes. And the really interesting part is that the reaction gets worse with repeated exposure. The more times you touch poison ivy, the more severe your reaction becomes. It gets worse each time. Jin's leaves were starting to curl up. Much worse, So Young confirmed. Some people become so sensitive that they have severe reactions just from being near the plant when the wind blows. She moved to another plant. This one with delicate white flowers. This is giant hogweed, she said. Much more dramatic than poison ivy. It looks beautiful, Min said cautiously. The sap contains chemicals that react with sunlight, So Young explained. If you get the sap on your skin and then go into the sun, you get third-degree burns. Third-degree burns? Young Ho repeated in horror. From a plant? The burns are so severe they often require skin grafts, So Young said matter-of-factly. And the scars can last for years. Some people are permanently disfigured. A plant that burns people with sunlight? Bin's crystal form was starting to vibrate again. The plant does not actually burn people, So Young corrected. It makes people burn themselves with sunlight. Very clever, really. She walked deeper into the forest, pushing aside hanging vines and stepping over fallen logs. Now this is really fascinating, she said, stopping next to a large tree with beautiful red fruits hanging from its branches. This is a manchineel tree. The fruit looks delicious, Wu Jin observed. Local people call it the death apple, So Young said. Every part of this tree is extremely toxic. The fruit, the leaves, the bark, even the sap, how toxic? Jin asked, though he sounded like he did not want to know. If you eat the fruit, you die, So Young said simply. If you touch the sap, you get severe burns. If you burn the wood, the smoke can blind you permanently. That is terrible, Yoon said. But wait, it gets better, So Young continued enthusiastically. If you stand under this tree during rain, the water dripping off the leaves can cause severe burns and blistering. The rain becomes poisonous? Juan squeaked. The tree makes the rain poisonous, So Young confirmed. You cannot even take shelter under it during a storm. Why would evolution create such a thing? Young Ho asked in despair. Because it works, So Young said with admiration. Nothing bothers manchineel trees. They grow peacefully for hundreds of years because everything knows to stay away. She continued walking through the forest, occasionally swatting at small flying insects. Of course, the trees are not the only interesting plants here, she said. Let me show you some of the smaller species. She knelt down next to what looked like an ordinary green plant with an open, cup-shaped flower. This is a Venus flytrap, she announced. It is lovely, Min said. Such an unusual flower shape. It is not a flower, So Young corrected. It is a mouth. A mouth? Venus flytraps are carnivorous. They eat meat. The student stared at her in stunned silence. Plants that eat meat, Jin whispered. Oh yes, Earth has many carnivorous plants, So Young said. This one has a trap that snaps shut when an insect lands inside. Then it slowly digests the insect alive. Plants are supposed to eat sunlight and water, Jin protested weakly. Most plants do, So Young agreed. But some earth plants decided that eating animals was more efficient. She touched the edge of the Venus flytrap's trap, and it immediately snapped shut with surprising speed. The trap can close in half a second, she explained. Once an insect is caught, the plant releases digestive enzymes and slowly dissolves its prey. Jin made a sound that the translator could not process, but it sounded like sobbing. Let me show you something even more impressive, So Young said, walking over to a pool of water where tall plants with large, pitcher-shaped flowers grew. These are pitcher plants, she said, much more sophisticated hunters than Venus flytraps. More sophisticated how? Yoon asked nervously. They are like natural prisons, So Young explained. Insects are attracted by the sweet smell and bright colors. They climb down inside the pitcher to get the nectar, but the walls are covered with tiny hairs that only point downward. So they cannot climb back out? Bin asked. Exactly. They fall into a pool of digestive acid at the bottom of the pitcher and are slowly dissolved alive. Digestive acid? Young-ho said faintly. Some pitcher plants can dissolve small birds and rodents, So Young added helpfully. 3 students immediately fainted. I should mention, So Young continued, that these are actually some of the less dangerous plants in the Amazon. Less dangerous? Min squeaked. Well, yes. These plants only hurt you if you touch them or try to eat them. There are plants here that can kill you just by being nearby. How can a plant kill you by being nearby? Juan asked. Toxic spores, poisonous pollen, allergic reactions, So Young listed. Some people are so allergic to certain plants that they can die from breathing air that contains pollen particles. Air that contains pollen can kill people? Bin asked in disbelief. Oh yes. During pollen season, some humans have to stay indoors with air filters, or they will suffocate from allergic reactions. Pollen season? Young-ho repeated. When plants release their reproductive cells into the air, So Young explained, the air becomes thick with plant pollen. You can actually see yellow clouds of it floating around. Yellow clouds of plant reproductive cells that can kill people, Yoon said slowly. It is quite beautiful, actually, So Young said, like golden dust floating in the sunlight. Beautiful but deadly, Jin said in a hollow voice. Most things on Earth are beautiful but deadly, So Young agreed. That is what makes it such an interesting planet to study. Something rustled in the trees behind her, and she looked over her shoulder casually. Oh, that is probably just a jaguar, she said. They hunt in this area. Jaguar? Several students asked together. Large predatory cats, So Young explained. About 100 kilograms, very strong jaws, excellent climbers. They can crush skulls with their bite. And you are not concerned? Wu Jin asked. They usually avoid humans, So Young said with a shrug. Besides, I am more worried about the smaller creatures. Bullet ants, wandering spiders, poison dart frogs. The little things are often more dangerous than the big things. What are bullet ants? Min asked weakly. Ants whose sting feels like being shot with a bullet, So Young said. The pain lasts for 24 hours and is so intense that it can cause temporary paralysis. And poison dart frogs? Yoon asked. Tiny, colorful frogs whose esque. The 4th day brought unexpected visitors to Professor Taemin's classroom. Dean Jae-won Park stood at the back of the room, along with Dr. Hyun Lee from the Galactic University's Xenobiology Department. Several news reporters from different worlds hovered near the walls, their recording equipment focused on the discussion. Word about the Earth lessons had spread throughout the galaxy. The idea that humans came from what other species considered a death world had become the most talked about story on the galactic news networks. Good morning, class, Professor Taemin said, noticing the nervous energy in the room. I see we have some guests today. The alien students looked even more stressed than usual. Bin's crystal form had developed so many stress fractures that he looked like cracked glass. Jin's plant-like body was curled up so tightly that he resembled a dried leaf. Professor Kim, Juan said, his gas form a worried shade of dark purple. The entire galaxy is talking about your lessons. Everyone wants to know how humans could possibly survive on Earth. That is exactly what we're going to discuss today, Professor Taemin replied. He gestured to Dean Park and Dr. Lee. I have asked some colleagues to help explain this mystery. Dean Park stepped forward. She was a tall woman with graying hair and kind eyes. She had run the Galactic University for 20 years and had worked with students from hundreds of different worlds. Students, she said gently, I know the last few days have been difficult for you. Learning about Earth's environment has been shocking. But today we will help you understand the real story. Dr. Hyun Lee joined them at the front of the room. He was a younger man who specialized in studying how different species evolved on their home worlds. The question you have all been asking, Dr. Lee said, is how humans could possibly survive on such a dangerous planet. But you are asking the wrong question. What is the right question? Young-ho asked, both of his consciousness speaking together. The right question is not how humans survived on Earth, Dr. Lee explained. The right question is how Earth created humans. The students looked confused. Yoon's compound eyes dimmed as she tried to process this idea. I do not understand, she said. How can a planet create a species? Let me explain, Dr. Lee said, activating a holographic display. Most intelligent life in the galaxy evolved on what we call garden worlds, planets with stable weather, gentle environments, and peaceful conditions. The hologram showed several beautiful planets with calm blue skies and peaceful landscapes. Your homeworlds are all garden worlds, Dr. Lee continued. Veltharian crystal gardens with perfect temperature control, Cephirian gas clouds with gentle breezes and no storms, Murthak ocean worlds with calm waters and no predators. The students nodded. Their homeworlds were indeed peaceful and safe. Because you evolved in safe environments, Dr. Lee explained, your species developed in certain ways. You became intelligent, but you did not need to become physically strong or mentally tough. You did not need to survive constant danger. But Earth is different, Min asked. Earth is completely different, Professor Taman said. Earth did not allow humans to evolve in safety. Every single day for millions of years, Earth tested humans with deadly challenges. What kind of challenges? Wu Jin asked from his water tank. Everything we have shown you over the past 3 days, Dean Park replied. Extreme weather that could kill instantly. Predators that hunted humans for food. Plants that could poison or burn. Diseases carried by tiny insects. Natural disasters that could destroy entire communities. How did early humans survive all of that? Bin asked, his crystal form vibrating with curiosity rather than fear for the first time. They adapted, Dr. Lee said simply. Every challenge Earth presented, humans found a way to overcome. And each time they overcame a challenge, they became stronger, smarter, and more resilient. Can you give us examples? Young Ho asked. Certainly, Professor Taman said, changing the holographic display. Let us start with endurance. The hologram showed early humans running across a vast grassland chasing a large animal. Humans became persistence hunters, he explained. Most predators on Earth are faster than humans, but humans can run longer than any other large animal on the planet. How much longer? Juan asked. Humans can run continuously for hours, Dr. Lee said. They would chase prey animals until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. No other species on Earth can match human endurance. Even today, Dean Park added, humans regularly run distances that would kill most galactic species. They run marathons of 42 kilometers for entertainment. For entertainment? Yoon repeated in disbelief. Ultramarathons can be over 160 kilometers, Professor Taman said. Some humans run for 24 hours straight without stopping. That is impossible, Bin protested. No living creature can run for 24 hours. Humans can, Nara said quietly from her seat. She had been silent for most of the week, watching her classmates' reactions. My brother ran an ultramarathon last year. He finished in 18 hours. Your brother ran for 18 hours without stopping? Wu Jin asked in amazement. He stopped for water and food, Nara said. But yes, he kept running. He said it was fun. Fun, Jin repeated weakly. Let us discuss adaptation, Dr. Lee said, changing the display again. Humans live in every environment on Earth. Arctic regions where the temperature never rises above freezing. Deserts where the temperature reaches 60 degrees Celsius. Mountains where the air is too thin for most species to breathe. How can one species adapt to such different environments? Min asked. Intelligence and cooperation, Professor Taman explained. When humans encountered cold climates, they learned to make clothing from animal fur. When they faced hot deserts, they learned to find and store water. When they found dangerous predators, they learned to make weapons and hunt in groups. They turned Earth's dangers into tools? Young Ho asked. Exactly, Dean Park said. Humans learned to use fire to cook food and keep warm. They learned to make medicines from poisonous plants. They learned to build shelters that could withstand hurricanes and earthquakes. But the most important adaptation, Dr. Lee said, was psychological. What do you mean? Juan asked. Humans learn not to give up, Dr. Lee explained. When faced with impossible challenges, humans do not flee or surrender. They think of new solutions. They try different approaches. They keep trying until they succeed or die. That sounds terrifying, Bin said. It is terrifying, Nara agreed. But it is also wonderful. Humans never accept that something is impossible. If one approach does not work, they try another. If that does not work, they try something completely different. For example, Professor Taman said, humans wanted to fly like birds. This seemed impossible because humans do not have wings. So they gave up? Yoon asked. No, Professor Taman smiled. They built machines with wings. When those did not work well enough, they built machines that used propellers. When they wanted to fly faster, they built machines that used jet engines. When they wanted to leave Earth entirely, they built rockets. They built machines to do what their bodies could not do, Min asked in wonder. Humans always build machines to do what their bodies cannot do, Dean Park said. They cannot breathe underwater, so they built submarines. They cannot survive in space, so they built spacesuits and spaceships. They cannot see in the dark, so they invented electric lights. Every problem becomes a puzzle to solve, Dr. Lee added. Humans do not see obstacles as reasons to stop. They see obstacles as interesting challenges. But why are they like this? Woo-jin asked. Why do humans never give up? Because Earth never let them give up, Professor Taemin said quietly. For millions of years, humans who gave up died. Only the ones who kept trying survived long enough to have children. Generation after generation, Earth selected for humans who would never surrender. Natural selection, Dr. Lee explained. But instead of selecting for bigger teeth or stronger claws, Earth selected for determination, intelligence, and cooperation. Cooperation? Young Ho asked. Individual humans are not particularly dangerous, Dean Park said. But humans working together are the most formidable force on Earth. They can organize into groups of millions of individuals, all working toward the same goal. Millions? Bin asked in awe. Human cities contain millions of people, Nara said. Seoul, where I grew up, has almost 10 million humans living and working together. 10 million individuals cooperating? Juan's gas form swirled with amazement. How is that possible? Practice, Professor Taemin said with a smile. Humans have been working together to survive for so long that cooperation is instinctive. They automatically help each other during disasters. They share resources during shortages. They work together to solve problems that no individual could handle alone. Which brings us to the most important point, Dr. Lee said. Humans do not see Earth as a death world. They do not? Young Ho asked. To humans, Earth is home, Dean Park explained. They do not think of the weather as deadly. They think of it as variable and interesting. They do not see predators as terrifying. They see them as part of the ecosystem. They do not fear poisonous plants. They learn to avoid them or use them as medicine. Humans think you are all very fragile, Nara said gently. When we learned that most galactic species cannot handle changes in temperature or humidity, we were amazed.